Hey everybody, so finally got to actually putting this video together. Did this workout a couple weeks ago on October 31st, 2023. What this is a back accessory and ab accessory type of day. So I'm in a heavy or powerlifting cycle right now, and I've definitely figured out through trial and error, because there was times when I wouldn't be doing this, that adding an extra day of back accessory movements really helps. Back accessories are easy to do a lot of because they're all shortened position overloaded movements, which means, or pretty much all of them, like whenever I think about back movements, I think that they're shortened position overloaded movements, which basically means that the movements are the toughest when the muscles are in the shortest position. So whenever you're doing a row, it gets tougher as you get closer to the body. A lat pull down, it gets tougher as you get closer to the body. That's because the muscles are getting into a shortened position, and it's a little bit tougher for them to produce force in this shortened position. But because of this, movements that are shortened overloaded as opposed to lengthened overloaded, which means that they're the toughest when the muscle is the most stretched out. Think like a preacher curl, a Nordic hamstring curl, RDLs, squats in the bottom, most of the time bottom position, lunges, Bulgarian split squats. All those things are the toughest when the muscle is all the way stretched out. So those are really tough to recover from. But again, like I said, a lot of back movements are shortened overloaded, which means they're easy to recover from. So you can do a lot of extra volume of that. And really, a strong back means a strong person. So what you just saw me do there was I did 100 band pull-aparts as a warm-up. Now I'm going into 100 banded face pulls for the next part of my warm-up. And then you'll see me do reverse flies after this, which is kind of like the last quote-unquote part of my warm-up. Like, just getting a lot of blood flow into the area. Again, even though, most back movements are shortened overloaded to begin with, I picked even banded exercises here as my start of the warm-up because they have, in addition to their shortened position overloaded, there's minimal or there's no real eccentric component to it. And because there's no eccentric component to it, again, these are just great for blood flow to the area. So I'm warming up my upper back and shoulders, getting a lot of blood into my traps, rhomboids, rear delts, rotator cuffs there, and just getting, again, a lot of blood flow before I go into some of my quote-unquote heavier back movements that I do there. This is more of a bodybuilding style of working out, where you kind of pick a movement to actually do as a warm-up, or you pick exercises to actually do part of the warm-up as part of your warm-up. We do a lot of the CPPS warm-up protocols, and if you haven't taken that course, I highly recommend it at some point. But so they have a whole warm-up protocol that we learned from Jonas Franco, Smitty, and Obi. And there's a lot more steps to that, and we do that and a lot more for our athletes. And I personally do, warm-ups like that more for my heavy or normal training days, like my normal lower body days, my normal upper body days. But since this is like an extra accessory day, I can kind of just pick some movements that are shortened, positioned, minimal eccentric. I'm doing them for high reps just to get a crazy amount of blood flow, because I'm really not challenging crazy movements in this workout. By crazy movements, I mean heavily loaded squats or deadlifts or presses. I'm not challenging movements in this workout. I'm challenging muscles. So when I'm going to do that, I'm going to train more like a bodybuilder, i.e. I'm going to warm up more like a bodybuilder. Also, that really involves doing a movement to warm up. So I'm going to be finishing up the banded face pulls in a second. Then you're going to see me transition to my next workout, which is going to be chest-supported reverse flies. For the next one there, that next movement, I'm going to be doing 70 reps now. So going to a little bit more, again, a little bit more taxing of a movement, even though it's still pretty easy on the shoulders, but there is now a little bit of an eccentric load, but that's not too bad. You could still use these first in your warm-up if you really wanted to, but because of the slightly more or eccentric loading, I did do these third in my warm-up as kind of like my last part of warming up. Now, what I'm really doing when I'm focusing on this movement is I'm just trying to move my arms out to the side, okay? So you're like, yeah, no duh. But with a reverse fly, it's really easy to take the stress off of your rear delt and just move it to your rhomboids and traps. Because what you're going to do, or if you want to use your rhomboids and traps, you're actually going to think about squeezing your shoulder blades together, and which that's not what I'm doing here. I'm not focusing on pinching my shoulder blades together. I did that more during the band pull aparts and the Facepulls, where every time I, pulled the band apart, I focused on squeezing my shoulder blades together. Here, I'm really specifically trying to emphasize the rear delt, and your rear delt does not cross your shoulder blade. It's just wraps around the spine of your scapula and then goes, as part of the delt that attaches onto your top arm bone, which is called your humerus. And that's the bone that it moves, that top arm bone. So that's all I'm focusing on moving, is I'm just kind of like almost thinking about just swinging my arms out to the side with that weight there, as opposed to actually getting full retraction and squeezing my shoulder blades, which, again, just getting more blood into a different part. And emphasizing a very underutilized and commonly weak muscle, which is the rear delt. So this workout is kind of it's in the middle of the week. I've already done a lower and then upper body workout, and then this is right after that, and my next workout is another lower and then upper body workout. Then I have a day off, and then that week myself and one of our athletes, Nick Ransom, we went out to Buffalo to do a push-pull meet. So I wasn't necessarily trying to be peaking for that push-pull meet. We just kind of like are using it as a heavy competition training day. Get a different competition on the books, which is great because, last time I didn't get a full competition in. I actually bombed out in my last meet. Took too many stimulants. I took too much DMAA for my squat, which went great, but then I super crashed really hard for my bench press. So not only did I open too heavy on my last bench press, but because I was coming down off of that DMAA, really crashed really hard. Don't recommend. Honestly, it's going to be something that I don't think I'm going to take that much more of at all from here on out, because honestly, I do not feel good afterwards. Like, the weights feel great, but I think it's definitely got it's not supposed to be great for your cardio. It's supposed to be great for your heart. So if anybody did know from back in the day, that's the ingredient in the old Jacked 3D pre-workout that, again, works really well, not super great for you. So I'm not going to be doing that. I don't recommend it. People do what you want, but I recommend really probably just caffeine. Like, that's probably just going to work way better. You're going to feel way better off of that. But because of that, I got my squats in. Those counted. Didn't get bench press or deadlift, so it kind of works out to do a push-pull meet to kind of complete a full meet and then get ready for the next one. What you see me doing now is I was doing some seal rows with our half trap bar. So that's trap bar with the back cut out of it, and this is our ghetto rigged seal row bench, where we just put the bench up on two boxes. That trap bar is pretty decently heavy. It's a 75-pound trap bar, and then we've got, I started with 25s on each side, focusing on pinching my shoulder blades together. This is kind of like my heavy upper back type row for the day, so I'm emphasizing pinching my shoulder blades together, trying to develop strength in that trap and rhomboid area. And then after this, I'm going to do my heavy lat rowing exercise, which is going to be dumbbell chest supported rows. So for this exercise, I did 3x8, my first set with the 25s, and then I added the 10s on each side for my next two working sets. Again, this whole workout is just kind of for extra volume, so I'm really not going to failure on any of these exercises that are a little bit taxing here. I'm trying to keep it nice and strict, just trying to get, again, this is all extra stuff. I'm not necessarily worried about going super, super intense. So while those sets were still kind of difficult and tough, I wasn't super taxed, and that's going to be the same thing with these dumbbell chest supported rows. If you want to think about it, maybe like that 2 to 3 reps in reserve range is where I'm staying, just to get a pretty solid pump in the muscle, have it be a little bit challenging, a little bit difficult, but walk away from it not feeling super taxed, because it's in the middle of my training week. So the middle of my training week, and I have an added bonus day of, you know, the push-pull meet at the end of this week. So this is like a very high volume week, so I'm not necessarily worried about crushing myself. Now, I'm still working hard, it's still tough, but it's not like all the way till failure. It's kind of like that, you know, 8 out of 10 effort as opposed to 10 out of 10, you know, ammonia capsules, smash your head into the wall effort, which is where I save that for my heavy lifts. And these are, again, being treated more like bodybuilding style movements, because that's what they are. They're there to develop muscle and develop weak points. You know, I'm not just throwing weight around for the sake of throwing weights around. It's specifically to hit the muscle. So while you need to be challenging that, and it should be tough, you still need to be hitting the specific muscle that you actually want to. So now I'm doing my chest supported rows, again with my lat emphasis, and I'm really focusing on trying to pull my shoulder blades into my back pockets, so that's scapular depression, while as I move my arm back, okay? You don't see a lot of bend in my elbow there because, again, your lat doesn't actually do anything at your elbow. It detaches from the spinous processes of it's from T6 all the way down to L5, and then ties into your thoracolumbar fascia and sacrum and all that stuff. Not that you need to know it, but then it ties onto your humerus, and that's the bone that it moves. So you don't have to worry about bending your arm to necessarily get a lot of lat involvement. You need to put your shoulder blade in your back pocket, focus on moving your arm, your upper arm there in the direction you want to actually develop those wings. For that exercise, I also did 3x8, one with the 60s and 2 with the 70, or 1 set with the 60-pound dumbbells, 2 sets with the 70-pound dumbbells. I'll get my brain all situated at one point here. And that's kind of what I did for my strength, again, air quotes, quote unquote, strength portion of the workout today. A lot of pump stuff, a lot more specifically upper back stuff. I just wanted to hit that one exercise that was lat specific, and now a lot more upper back and strength endurance stuff. Moving on, you see me doing, this is going to be a superset of a YTW iso hold into dumbbell YTW raises. Okay, so this is a pretty solid upper back burn or upper back finisher. This is because this is going to be the last upper back exercises that I do in the workout. After that, I'm going to move on to some core exercises. And these are getting really tough. Like, I'm trying to take as little breaks in between each, just get my arms up as high as I can. For the YTW holds, I'm just trying to keep constant tension in between my shoulder blades the whole time. So when I'm squeezing, when I'm in the Y raise, I'm trying to drive my arms up past my ears as much as I can. When I'm in the T, I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades together as hard as I can. When I'm in the W, I'm trying to squeeze them together and put them in my back pocket as hard as I can. And what that's basically doing is kind of like pre-fatiguing the muscle, and then making these dumbbell Y raises, or dumbbell YTW raises, way tougher than they would be if just done by himself. Because the iso hold, what that's doing is it's occluding blood flow to the area. So when a muscle contracts, it kind of pinches on the blood vessels around it and reduces the amount of blood flow to that area. It sounds like a bad thing, but what that also does is that helps build up metabolic waste products. As you see, I'm trying to stretch my back out in between sets there. It's super pumped up. So it builds up of metabolic waste products. Some of those waste products, like lactate, there's some correlation between that lactate and HGH production. Natural, not like taking HGH exogenously, but natural production of HGH. So it's lactate is a stimulus for muscle growth, excuse me. So that's kind of where like the metabolic stress comes from in a workout. That's the pump. There's 3 different types of stimuli to actually promote muscle growth. That's mechanical tension, which we kind of talked about, like that's working muscles in a stretched position under load. Then there's the metabolic stress component, which is what I'm getting after here. Then there's muscle damage, which is just like lots of volume and then damaging the muscle, having your body repair that muscle bigger and stronger the next time. But so I'm specifically doing this isometric first to occlude blood flow, help with those waste products build up, to then make this, even though it's still lightweight, I'm only doing 5 pounds and then 10 reps each. Yeah, I just double checked, only doing 10 reps each letter with the 5-pound dumbbells. My upper back, rear delts, rhomboids, toast by this time. So that's a super fun finisher. Give it a try on your upper back day, and see how it goes. I'm doing a 20-second hold each letter, and then go right into 10 dumbbell raises, YTW dumbbell raises each letter. Trying to get through really without as much break as possible to not let that fatigue or reduce any of that fatigue. Just keep trying to let my body handle it, but it got really tough towards the end. I need a couple breaths. Even those 5-pound dumbbells were starting to feel super heavy. And now the reason why I'm doing so much like upper back focused, so traps and stuff specifically, is that when I did do my 3rd attempt at my last squat, which I attempted 515 and I did not get it, but I felt myself, that was like one of the first exercise or first squat attempts where I felt my upper back round over, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like I didn't get that squat. You know, if my legs are pushing, but it's pushing into, if your core or upper back is weak and not stable, then you're kind of pushing up into mush, as opposed to having a more solid transfer of force from your legs and your back into the bar. So I'm hitting a lot of upper back stuff, strength and endurance movements specifically, to get my upper back stronger and being able to hold that bar of my back better and in a better position. Now you see me going to some core exercises, basically because I didn't get to some of these that I wanted to do on my lower body days. So I'm adding these in, and I'm making sure that I actually get them in throughout the week, just because some of my lower body exercise or workouts were taking way too long. So the first one you see me doing here is hanging leg raises, and I'm going to do 50 total reps, treating it like a rest pause method. I'm doing as many reps as I can. When my hip flexors are gassed out and fail, or my quads are cramping because I'm trying to keep my knee locked out the whole time, then I pop off. Even though right now you actually see me popping off the bar a little bit early because Rick is going for a big lift and I'm trying to encourage him. I think this is one of like his last couple heavy bench press days before we do a meet in a couple weeks. So cheering him on, seeing how that's going. Carmen touched the bar way too early, so we were all making fun of him right before he struggled. Don't touch the bar if you're spotting until it's coming back down. Have your hands there, be ready, but don't get all worried and excited. Just let the person failing with the bar on their throat is better than you taking the bar from them before they actually have a chance to struggle with it. If you're a real lifter, you know, and you 100% agree with that. But so we're making fun of him there. That's why it's taking me a little bit before I actually get back to these hanging leg raises. But I really like hanging leg raises, not only for hip flexor strength, but for ab strength also. And I get an added bonus of decompression of my spine and grip strength. Now, you definitely can use straps on these if you want to, if you're worried about your grip failing, if you're, want to do more specifically core training, ab training and hip flexor training, and you don't want your grip to be a limiting factor, feel free to throw straps on. However, I've never, I hate whenever I say numbers that I do and sound like I'm bragging, but, I've been able to hang on a bar for over 2 minutes at a time pretty, I wouldn't say easily, but I could, a minute is no problem. 2 minutes is, 2.5 is where I'm okay, this is getting pretty tough. So my grip is not a problem when I am hanging on a bar for that long. And plus, I'm down for getting a little bit extra grip work and grip challenge there. So I highly recommend trying these if you haven't. They're super tough on your core and, like I said, grip, but you also get, anytime you're hanging and having a little sort of back decompression there, it kind of helps your back calm down if it's a little bit tight, if it's a little bit turned on too much from all your heavy squatting and deadlifting. A little bit of back decompression helps most people. If you have an unstable spine, unstable injury, then any sort of decompression work might make things worse, so keep that in mind. But that's not something that I currently am struggling with and working through. So some decompression work, some body tempering at the end of a heavy lower body workout feels really good. I mean, one of the things that I used to do a majority of the time is actually end my upper body day with, my lower body day with pull-ups. Because again, it was less about doing it for pull-up strength, even though you got a bunch of reps in, which is great, and more about every time I would hang for a little bit of a second, decompress the spine, do a pull-up, hang for a little bit, decompress the spine, do a pull-up. So yes, I was getting some extra pulling strength in there, fantastic, especially for deadlifts, but really to start that recovery process for your back so you can do it again to keep training. So this is my last exercise of the day, and now I'm doing suitcase carries. I'm going to do 30 yards each side, and I'm not putting the kettlebell down. So I'm going to do 3 sets, 30 yards each side, walking nice and slow like I'm walking on a tightrope, trying to maintain a brace for that whole time to resist the lateral flexion moment of the kettlebell. So that kettlebell is trying to pull me to the side. I'm bracing, trying to resist that the whole time. Walking down and back, again, my intention is not to I'm not taking any break between hands or between sets, so just going back and forth. Again, this is really taxing the strength endurance aspect of my core, which is important. I mean, I don't know how to say it. That's important. I think there's a lot of debate going back and forth between whether you need a bendy, twisty spine, whether your spine produces power or it's just there to resist movement. Obviously, I think the answer is going to be, I don't want to say obviously, right? Because that, again, makes me sound like a pompous jerk, but it's going to be context specific. For powerlifting, it's very important that my core can resist motion, flexion, extension, twist, lateral flexion, twisting when I have a load on my spine, like in squatting or deadlifting. But if you're a baseball player, you're going to need some form of rotation. If you're in gymnastics or dance, you're going to need an incredibly flexible spine. So the adaptations that you want to go through for heavy resisted movements like powerlifting or strongman are not going to be the same adaptations that you want for an athlete that needs way more flexibility and mobility at their spine. However, if somebody's still having an instability problem, even if they need mobility at their spine, they can still go too far, cause some injuries by having too much mobility. So those people, you're still going to want to do anti-movements. You're going to want so like movements that you resist lateral flexion, extension, rotation, flexion. You're still going to want to do that. It's just you might not do it through a heavily loaded back squat, because then that would cause bony adaptations and end plate adaptations and all collagen adaptations in the spine. Instead, you're going to want to train your core musculature to be able to resist these motions. I think that's where some of the difference really comes in, and where a lot of the nuance in fighting online actually comes in. Like, you can train your core to be stable without necessarily putting super high compressive loads on the back like you would in heavy farmers carries squats, deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, so that there's less bony adaptations, but there can still be muscular adaptations. Like, so for even somebody who is a dancer or a gymnast who needs that mobility, if they have an instability problem, you're just not going to worry about getting that stability through exercises like back squatting or deadlifting. Maybe it's like how I'm doing it. You know, it's strength, endurance, movements done for a decently long time. So I'm trying to fight that fatigue, but it's not heavily loaded, right? It's just bracing for long periods of time, trying to maintain posture so that my core is better and more stable, but it's not causing a crazy amount of bony adaptations that I wouldn't want for somebody. So, all right, that'll be the end. I hope everybody has a great day.